Alright, so today I'm refilling some of these propane bottles, and I thought I'd bring you along for the ride. I'm actually going to refill two different types of bottles. This is the one from Flame King. That's a refillable bottle, and then I have one of the disposable bottles here. And I'm going to actually do both of them. And you can actually buy a Flame King kit. The kit actually comes with this that you hook up to the bottle here. And then when you press the lever, it fills the tanks this way. The reason I don't like this is because when you're filling, especially when you're filling this, you really can't see the weight on the bottle until you're done and you stop, and you risk the overfilling problem on these bottles. Let me tell you, you do not want to overfill these bottles at all. So what I've actually done is I bought this contraption here, and I'll put a link for it below underneath this video. And what this actually does, this is actually two different pieces. So this piece right here is the filter, and this actually will filter out all the oils and the rust and all the particulates that are in the tank. And sometimes if you're actually running through like a rubber hose like this, you get a little bit of oil, and this will actually remove all the oils. So let me see if I can screw this back on. The threads are kind of interesting because this is a clockwise thread on this one, and then usually when you thread a propane bottle, it is counterclockwise. And this is kind of cool too, because you have the little on-off switch right here that'll actually turn it on and off. So essentially what you do with this is you just hook it up to the tank. This is really super easy. And if you do it right, it's safe. Let me tell you, you want to be away from your house. I've seen people doing this like in their garage, or, you know, in one case, I actually saw some guy doing it in his living room. And keep in mind, either one of these, you have to vent some propane. So you have propane vapor in the air. And the problem is if you do it inside of a house or even in a garage and you get a buildup of the propane vapor, essentially what's going to happen is it'll be a really explosive environment. And if someone even just switches a light switch on, it could potentially ignite those fumes, which you definitely don't want. All right, so I'm gonna show you the more accepted tank, which is the Flame King. These are actually DOT approved. I like to put these little brass caps on just to protect the threads, and it also, if you have a tiny little leak in here, it'll actually stop the leak, and it'll make these last a really long time. So I would highly recommend these brass caps. I have them on pretty much every single tank. I have about 20 of these little cylinders, which is cool. 2 of them are the Flame Kings, and the rest are just disposable. And then on here, essentially what you do, you just put this right on here, connect it right to the filter. And the other thing, when I first got these Flame King tanks, what I did is I completely emptied them and I put the tare weight. It's 1.433 pounds. That way you can kind of check. I always do it in pounds because a completely full will be 2.433. You definitely do not want to go over the 1 pound mark. And essentially all you do on this one, this is really cool with this because you can kind of bend this tube and it'll hold its shape, and you can accurately measure. This is what you really want to do. You want to accurately measure. This is what they do at the propane shops. Let's actually do that. As a matter of fact, most people will vent the air first from the tube, but you really don't do that because as you're filling, what you do is you use a little Allen key to open the little valve right here on the side. Let me see where the valve is. So the valve's actually right here, and then you always want to look at where it's actually going to vent. So it vents out this side, so you really want to point it away from you so you're not standing right in the cloud of propane that's coming out of your tank. So essentially what I do here is I zero it, which is easy. Open up this valve, and keep in mind with these propane tanks, there is liquid on the bottom and then there's vapor on the top, so you have to turn it upside down so you just get the liquid into these tanks. And Let's see, that actually, I'm going to zero it out again. It looks like it added some weight to the hose, which is interesting. I usually vent it a little before I do it, but essentially what you do is you just start filling it, and you can see it's increasing there. And basically, if you just fill it without venting it, it'll go about maybe a quarter or a third of the way. So what you really want to do is you want to open this little valve. This is the way you're supposed to do it. And then you vent some of the propane out of the side. And kind of the weird thing with these Flame Kings is the instructions say to open it up until you see a little stream of liquid propane coming out of this little stream right here. And the problem is I found you slightly overfill it doing it that way. So this way you can get like 0.99 pounds, and you can get it exactly to the right measurement. If you can actually see that on the camera there. So at 0.2 you can open it up a little bit more, kind of speed it up a little bit. And the more you open it, the faster it goes. So we're at a quarter of a pound already. And keep in mind, this is venting the propane vapor and some of the air that was in the line too, but mostly just the propane vapor. So this is extremely flammable. So one of the things you want to make sure that there's nothing that will make sparks. I've seen in some propane training, they actually say you want to watch what clothes you wear. You don't want to wear a sweater that really has a lot of static, and it'll build up a lot of static. So you want anti-static clothes like cotton or canvas. You want anti-static shoes like leather. As a matter of fact, I went to the propane place, and I had them refill this tank. You can get these tanks refilled, these 20-pounders, for a lot less than an exchange, and you get about 25% more propane in these tanks here. And I was keeping an eye on what they were wearing, and sure enough, everyone was wearing non-sparking clothes. They were wearing cotton jeans, a cotton pullover, leather gloves. You definitely want to wear some kind of a glove to protect yourself, because that liquid propane, it will burn and freeze you instantly. So you definitely want some gloves. You definitely want some eye protection. See, right now we're at 0.7. And the other thing too is it really helps to have a really accurate scale. This one is 0.7535 pounds. So you can go all the way out to the end right there. What I do is I just wait till we're at 0.8. I wait till it's like 0.98 or something like that, and then I'll just close this valve first to stop the flow. So we're coming up on 0.87, and it doesn't really take that long. So 0.9, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, and then pretty much like at 9.7 or 9.8, I'll just close the valve. 6, like 7 right there, and I'll close that first to stop the propane from going in. And see, there's no liquid coming out. And then I'll close this. And then what I do, so that's a full tank right there. And just a little bit comes out from so the filter actually holds a little bit. You can kind of let it vent out a little bit before you take it all the way off. And then what I like to do is I like to check it. So I'll zero it out, and then I'll look at my weight. 1.433 pounds, so it should be 2.4. So 2.36. That is as close as I want to get without going over. I was actually getting really close. I can get a little bit closer, but I find that, it doesn't really matter when you're talking about, a couple hundredths of a pound. It doesn't really matter. So what I'll actually do is I'll move that into my full box. I have 2 full boxes and then 1 empty box for my empties. So that one's full. All right, so let's talk about these bottles for a bit. This is a little bit different than the other bottle. And what some people will do is I'll actually go in here with the pliers and lift up on this release valve right here, because I actually have been filling this, and it pretty much stopped about halfway at 0.48 pounds. So you need to release the pressure somehow. So one way you can do it is to lift up on here. Some people say that they don't advise it because a lot of times after you kind of mess with that valve, sometimes it'll keep leaking. I've actually seen a lot of people say, you know, on their videos to pull up the valve, and then you'll see in the comments they said, I decided not to pull up on the valve because all my bottles are leaking now. So what I actually do is, so it stopped at 0.49. What I do is I turn it off, and then you can come in here and take it completely off. Just like this. And then you want to go in with, you can use like a screwdriver, or I actually use a little Allen key. And a lot of people are kind of concerned about the sparking in here. Well, if you actually look at the valve, it's a brass valve surrounded by plastic on top of an aluminum housing. So you really can't spark anything with anything metal in there. And then what you do is you just release some of that pressure. Put it back on, fill it up. And I found sometimes you have to release the pressure a couple times. And I don't know what's these threads are. I'm always worried about crossing threads, because keep in mind, these are aluminum threads. So you don't want to cross these threads, because you definitely mess up your bottle if you cross the threads, these aluminum threads on here. So you definitely want to spend a little bit of time getting those threads just right, so you don't strip them out. And then basically you just put it back on and keep filling it. And that's pretty much it for that bottle. The other thing I do is when they're completely empty, what I'll do is I'll depress that valve in the top and make sure they're completely empty. There's nothing in there. And then what I'll do is I'll just take my Sharpie right on the side and I'll give it a tear weight, completely empty weight. And then later on I can follow up and put a label on with the tear weight. And then you always know, you can always kind of recheck with the tear weight, because you know the complete weight of the empty bottle, and then you can go back with a full bottle. Make sure you're not over that at all. And if you are over that a little bit, you can just depress that valve right in the center to let a little of the gas escape. The other thing is I can kind of show you this valve on the side that a lot of people see. It stopped at 0.68. What some people will do is they'll lift this up like this, kind of vent the gas that way. That's one way to do it. I've seen some people say they've been doing that for years with no problems at all. So some people said they don't mess with it because it leaks. You can see we're at like 0.8 pounds now. You have to do it a couple times. I'll do it. And then the other thing is I've actually seen some people with needle nose pliers with a little curve on the end, and they'll pull it up this way, which seems to be a little bit better. So now we're at 0.91 pounds, 0.92. Looks like we're going to get close without having to purge it again, maybe. 0.94. It's weird. It'll actually keep going, and then it just stops. I thought I would always just keep kind of cranking. So 0.95, we can just do a little bit, just a little. See where we're at. 0.96, 0.97. See, this way with a really accurate balance, you can get right on there. 0.98. That's pretty good. And then you always want to follow up with a little soap, especially on these disposable bottles. You want to put a little soapy water on there. So you want to tear it. And on this one, actually just, you want to make sure you don't wipe it off. 0.91. 1.78. So we're still under. The problem is I can't read my own writing. So you want to make sure you don't wipe it off. It's 0.91 something. But we can add a little bit more. 0.78, so 0.91. So yeah, you can add a little bit more. And then what I do is I go in, you want to make sure with soapy water, especially if you're messing with this little valve here, to spray a little bit of soapy water on the valve and on this to make sure you have no leaks at all. If you have a leak, you definitely don't want it in your garage or in your house or anything like that. You want to get it away from the house and then dispose of the cylinder. And then after the soapy water, I'll actually take it under the hose, kind of wash the top so I don't get like dried up soap in my valve. And then I'll put the steel caps on. And that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward. You can do the valve method, or you can do the, releasing it from the top, either way. And just keep in mind that you can do this. It's legal, as far as I know, it's legal to refill these, but you just can't transport them per DOT regulations, mainly because you don't have an expiration date on the tank. And if you have 30-year-old cylinders, you don't want to really be filling them, because you run the risk of this kind of wearing out in here and then letting a lot of your gas go. So that's pretty much it. I hope you learned something. Leave some comments below. And a lot of these videos, you learn a lot from the comments underneath. People say, absolutely do not do this. And some people say, I've been doing this for decades and it's been fine. And you get different opinions. Pull the valve or don't pull the valve ever. Make sure to use, soapy water and everything. And I think the key is a really accurate balance to make sure 100% that you don't overfill these. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.